So Unit 2 in Social Studies that we are working in now, we're moving towards, is all about America, the colonies, getting their independence from Great Britain. So Unit 1, we learned about the explorers and why they came to the colonies and the colonies themselves. Now we're moving towards the Revolutionary War and the colonies gaining their independence from Great Britain and becoming the United States of America. So throughout this unit, we're going to add to this big page that says what led to the Revolutionary War, because it wasn't just one or two things that led to the war where we gained our independence from Great Britain. So today's lesson is all about the French and Indian War. That was kind of one of the starting points of leading towards the Revolutionary War. So what happened in the French and Indian War? Well, it lasted from 1754 to 1763. And what the whole point of it was Great Britain and France, and they were at war with each other, but they were at war for territory in America. So in the New World, because remember it wasn't America yet, so in the New World. So they were fighting for the area around the Mississippi River, places around the Mississippi River. And some of the Native Americans had joined and were fighting with Great Britain. Some of the Native Americans had joined and were fighting with France, with the French. But they were fighting in the New World, for the New World. Ben Franklin was, this was around his time, so he got a bunch of people together at Albany, New York. It was called the Albany Congress. And what they did at that meeting was they united the colonies. So we had our 13 colonies. They united them to fight with Great Britain against France. So the Albany Congress got together and they fought. They said, us colonies, we're going to fight with Great Britain. We don't want the French here. So even though you had Great Britain who had all the manpower, but then the French were using guerrilla warfare, not like, the big hairy animal you see at the zoo, guerrilla, Guerilla warfare. And what that was, they were like sneak attacks. So it was different than any other kind of warfare that had been seen before. So that really helped the French, even though Great Britain had a lot of soldiers. The French they used those sneak attacks to help them. But ultimately, Great Britain won the war, but then there was a ton of debt. War is expensive. It cost them a lot of money. So King George III, the King of England, he thought, we fought this war in America for the colonists. The colonies need to help pay off some of this debt. And the colonists were like, absolutely not. We didn't even want this war. We didn't want you over here fighting. This was not something we felt was necessary. So the French and Indian War led to some of the frustrations of taxation without representation. And what that meant was Parliament in Great Britain, so that was their government, they were meeting in Great Britain and they were saying, those colonists really need to pay us some. We're going to keep taxing them because they just owe us money. They're going to help pay off our debt. And the colonists didn't think they had to pay. They didn't feel like it was fair for them to pay. They didn't want to pay these taxes. They said, we're being taxed and we don't think that's right. And part of their issue, and that's where this without representation comes in, they didn't have a choice in the decision. Parliament didn't ask any colonist leaders to come over and say, what do you think? How do you think this should go? So Parliament was making all these decisions that the colonists were going to have to pay, and the colonists had no say. They were not represented in the government. So those are two things that led to the Revolutionary War that go along with your French and Indian War lesson.